Isiah Thomas was one of the most intense and misunderstood leaders the game has ever seen, and Magic Johnson says his rivalry with Isiah changed the emotional landscape of the NBA. Sitting alongside Dennis Rodman, Magic explains that Isiah played with a chip on his shoulder every single night. He didn't just want to win, he wanted respect. Dennis adds that Isiah thrived in chaos and pressure, and that mindset made him dangerous. His brilliance was undeniable, but controversy followed him everywhere, especially when it came to Michael Jordan. Magic Johnson recalls how close he and Isiah once were before competition got personal. They came into the league together and shared mutual respect, but battles between the Pistons and Bulls turned friendship into tension. Magic explains that Isiah felt the league favored Jordan, and that belief fueled his aggression. Dennis Rodman says Detroit embraced the villain role fully, and Isiah led the identity without apology. It wasn't dirty in their eyes, it was survival. Dennis remembers how Isiah controlled games without overpowering physically. He ran offenses with precision and fearlessness. Magic says Isiah's basketball IQ was elite and often overlooked because of the drama. He saw angles before they opened and exploited weaknesses. Instantly, that mental edge made Detroit champions. Isiah didn't dominate with size or athleticism, but with will. The controversy with Michael Jordan is where Isiah's legacy became complicated. Magic explains that the Pistons' physical style against Jordan crossed lines emotionally, even if it stayed within the rules of that era. Dennis admits they wanted to break Jordan mentally, not just stop him. Isiah believed intimidation was part of winning. That belief made enemies and headlines. Magic talks about the infamous handshake incident and how it defined public perception of Isiah. He says one moment erased years of greatness in the eyes of fans. Dennis agrees that Isiah was judged harsher than others. The Pistons were punished for winning differently. Isiah never apologized because he believed respect wasn't owed, it was earned. Dennis explains how Isiah demanded loyalty from teammates. Above all else, he protected his players fiercely and took heat publicly so they wouldn't have to. Magic says that kind of leadership builds trust, but also isolates you from outsiders. Isiah didn't care about being liked. He cared about control and belief. Magic reflects on Isiah being left off the dream team and calls it the most painful chapter. He admits politics played a role. Dennis says Isiah paid the price for standing his ground against Jordan and the league's golden image. Talent wasn't the issue, relationships were. That decision haunted Isiah's legacy. Dennis remembers how Isiah embraced being the villain late in his career. He leaned into it instead of running from it. Magic says that confidence scared people. Isiah never softened himself for approval. He stayed authentic to Detroit's identity. Magic explains that Isiah Thomas forced the league to evolve. He showed that intelligence, grit, and leadership could beat raw star power. Dennis says Isiah was the heart of the Bad Boys, and without him, the Pistons were just bodies. Championships followed his voice. Dennis looks at Magic and says Isiah Thomas was never afraid of conflict. Magic nods and adds that greatness often comes with controversy. Isiah wasn't perfect, but he was real. The rivalry with Jordan shaped NBA history. Love him or hate him, Isiah Thomas left scars and banners behind. That's not controversy. That's impact. Magic continues by saying Isiah understood power dynamics better than most stars. He knew when to challenge authority and when to bend rules without breaking them. Dennis adds that Isiah played chess while others played checkers. That mental toughness frustrated opponents and referees alike. He never looked rattled, even when chaos surrounded him. Dennis remembers how Isiah played through injuries that would sideline most players. Ankles, wrists, bruises, it didn't matter. Magic says that toughness earned deep respect inside the league. Isiah never used pain as an excuse. He used it as motivation. That resilience defined Detroit's culture. Magic explains how Isiah's confidence was often mistaken for arrogance. He spoke his mind without fear of backlash. Dennis says the media wasn't ready for a star who didn't seek approval. Isiah refused to play the league's favorite role. That independence made him a target. Dennis recalls how Isiah demanded accountability in practice. No one was allowed to coast. Magic says Isiah led by example, not volume. He didn't need speeches to control a room. His intensity did the talking. Magic reflects on how Isiah handled being disliked by other stars. He accepted it early. Dennis says Isiah believed respect came from results, not popularity. Winning validated him more than praise ever could. Dennis explains how Isiah manipulated tempo during games. He could slow things down or speed them up instantly. Magic says that control frustrated even elite defenders. Isiah dictated rhythm like a conductor. That's why he thrived in playoff basketball. Magic talks about Isiah's pride in representing Detroit. He didn't want glamour or spotlight cities. Dennis says Isiah loved being underestimated. Detroit versus everybody was personal. That loyalty bonded the team tightly. Dennis remembers how Isiah protected Detroit's identity against outsiders. He took criticism head-on so teammates stayed focused. Magic says that sacrifice is rarely talked about. Leaders absorb pressure so others can perform. Isiah did that constantly. Magic admits that even rivals studied Isiah closely. His footwork, angles, and decision-making were elite. Dennis says guards feared him more than they admitted. He was unpredictable, but precise. That combination is dangerous. Dennis reflects on how Isiah handled losing later in his career. He never blamed teammates or coaches. Magic says Isiah accepted decline with dignity. He understood seasons end, but legacy doesn't. That maturity came quietly. Magic explains that Isiah's post-playing career was shaped by the same intensity. He didn't soften his opinions. Dennis says controversy followed him off the court too. Isiah stayed unapologetic. That consistency defined him. Dennis remembers how Isiah embraced mentorship with younger players. He shared knowledge without ego. Magic says Isiah wanted the game to evolve. Even critics benefited from his insight. He loved basketball deeply. Magic reflects on how history slowly reevaluates Isiah Thomas. Time reveals complexity. Dennis says narratives fade, but impact remains. Championships don't lie. Isiah's fingerprints are permanent. Dennis explains that Isiah never chased validation from Jordan. He wanted competitive balance, not friendship. Magic says rivalry doesn't require hatred. It requires pride. Isiah had plenty of that. Magic admits that without Isiah, the NBA's edge would have dulled. He forced stars to toughen up. Dennis says Isiah made winning uncomfortable for everyone else. That's leadership through resistance. Dennis remembers Isiah's voice in huddles during elimination games, calm, focused, and sharp. Magic says pressure sharpened him instead of breaking him. That's rare at any level. Magic explains how Isiah understood sacrifice better than most scorers. He gave up numbers for wins. Dennis says that selflessness is overlooked. Stats fade, but rings last. Isiah knew that. Dennis reflects on Isiah's relationship with fans. Detroit embraced him fully. Magic says loyalty goes both ways. The city and Isiah mirrored each other, tough, resilient, and proud. Magic looks at Dennis and says history needs context. Isiah Thomas wasn't a villain or hero alone. He was both. Dennis nods and says greatness is rarely clean. Isiah's legacy lives in tension. That tension is what made him unforgettable. Magic explains that Isiah always understood moments better than matchups. He knew when a single possession could swing belief. Dennis says Isiah spoke calmly in chaos and that steadied the spread instantly. Teammates trusted his reads without hesitation. Even when crowds turned hostile, Isiah stayed locked in. Magic adds that poise is what separates stars from leaders. Isiah lived in those moments. Dennis recalls how Isiah handled criticism after losses. He never hid or deflected blame. He stood in front of cameras and owned everything. Magic says that accountability earned respect inside the locker room. Players knew Isiah would never sacrifice them publicly. That protection built loyalty. Loyalty built championships. Magic reflects on how Isiah embraced being uncomfortable. He didn't seek praise or acceptance. Dennis says Isiah believed comfort weakened competitiveness. Every slight became fuel. Every doubt became energy. That mindset defined the Bad Boys era. Isiah sharpened himself through resistance. Dennis explains how Isiah's communication on the court was constant. He directed traffic without dominating voices. Magic says Isiah trusted teammates enough to give them freedom. Freedom created confidence. Confidence created execution. Execution created wins. Isiah understood that chain deeply. Magic talks about Isiah's emotional control during heated rivalries. He never let hatred cloud decisions. Dennis says Isiah separated emotion from execution. That discipline frustrated opponents. They wanted reaction and didn't get it. Isiah punished mistakes instead. That control was lethal. Dennis remembers how Isiah prepared mentally before big games. He visualized chaos and embraced it. Magic says Isiah expected war and welcomed it. Nothing surprised him once the ball tipped. Pressure became familiar territory. Familiarity bred dominance. That preparation was unseen, but powerful. Magic concludes that Isiah Thomas was never chasing approval. He chased legacy on his own terms. Dennis agrees that controversy followed honesty. Isiah chose truth over comfort every time. That choice cost him popularity. It earned him banners and respect, and that is why his story still matters.